Welcome to Fisher Island Part 5. Tim Kanak, you guys know me as. We're doing a lot of work here today. You can see behind me, we have started the lobby. So the lobby, you can see we've basically just been taking off the clean tiles like you can see in the other videos, cleaning the tiles. But one of the things we've run into, like some of the other decks, this is a metal deck. Check this out. So, we have this corrugated steel metal deck, which I'm walking on right now. And what they did was that they installed insulated board, you see the insulation here, over this metal deck, and there is no plywood. Here's a good view. You can see here's the old metal deck. See, there is a little bit of rust in the metal deck. Insulation board, and then roof with no structural wood. So, what we need to do here to come back for updated code, we can't build this the same way they did it before. What we have to do here is we have to attach plywood and screw the plywood in through the metal deck to create a new structural deck, which the guys are going to be doing today as they clear this off. So we're going to be attaching plywood through this deck and then rebuilding the deck with paper to meet updated Florida building code. And you can see what we did to facilitate this demo, because we're not using the crane for the lobby since this is only one story up. You'll watch behind me as we dump this. We created a ramp right here. Creating a dumpster surrounded by plywood to keep everything nice and safe down there. So that's what we have going on here as we're demoing this lobby. We have to restructure all this wood, resheathe the entire lobby here, which is a pretty big area. It's about 45 squares, 4,500 square feet. And then we'll take a look at what we're doing up there, because on this side, we're completing the secondary water barrier, the NTS dry-in, and the metals. And then on this side, you can see in the drone videos, we're pretty far along on the tiles now on the south side. Whereas the north side, we're getting this ready to start getting tiles up there. And the crane today, you can actually see behind me, the crane is bringing down now an empty pallet of tile. These giant elevator towers here, you've probably seen in the drone video if you were noticing. We are loading the tiles onto these towers as my tile guys are installing the tile on this south tower, and we're finishing the metal on this tower. And we're doing this lobby, all simultaneously. A lot of work going on concurrently. It's a lot of moving pieces. We have multiple project managers on the job site right now with all these moving pieces. This is how you do it. You can see that we placed plywood down below all these eaves to make sure that we don't break anything on the tiles as we're tearing this off. There are no gutters here to catch the debris. So on the lobby, we actually have an ongoing issue. Ooh, drama, right? You can see here, there's a 2x6 wood nailer. This is attached into this concrete. And you can see the decorative concrete. It's like a decorative design. When we remove this 2x6, it's very possible that this concrete is going to get messed up and could crumble down. So to avoid that, we might have to double sheathe this lobby with 2 sheets of plywood to create thickness, because if we just put 1 plywood, it's going to be too low. Yeah. And if we take this off, it's going to mess this concrete up. You can see too, some of these areas in the lobbies are just chocked full of metal. You see all this copper here? Because we have designs like this. You see we have valley, 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 valley. There's all these little valleys. And so what they do is they just put a giant sheet of copper in some of these spots. It's like, okay, this is just basically a giant saddle. So there's just a ton of copper all in these little areas here. You can see this comes and meets actually into somebody's balcony on this side, and then goes into some walls on this side. So this lobby, even though it's one story, there's some pretty intricate details besides the fact that we have to resheath over this steel deck here. And rebuilt basically a new roof, a new deck right on top of this old one. You can see too, we did the same thing here that we did on the rest of the roof, where we leave the perimeter tiles until the very end, which you still see some debris still is going to hit the ground, but we leave these until the end to catch the rest of the debris from falling down, to help keep everything clean and keep less stuff from actually coming back down and hitting the ground underneath. So we're up top right now on the south side. You see these big tanks here? These are 60-gallon tanks. These are the biggest you can get. These are so heavy we had to roll them out into the basket for the crane to get them out here. Poly set A and B. Heavy, but they do a lot of tile. You can see I'm walking on the brand new tile mount. Look how great these new tiles look. Get here in the sun a little bit so you can see. But you can check out, these are strong. You see here our vintage tiles, which if you watch the part 4 video, you'll see what they look like in like a small section. But you see here's the vintage tile, and then here is the Ohio red underneath, cap and pan. These are the caps, these are the pans. And in the drone video, you'll see a lot of this is done. And we kept little walkways here on the roof so that guys won't break the tile. And the reason we kept these little walkways here is because we had to wait for engineering to get done on these cupola and chimney roofs, which you can see are complete now, and you can see in the drone video too that these things are finally finished. We got the new roofs on. You see the new copper metal. You see the paper on behind me on these things, but we still have to do the tiles on these. So these just got done like yesterday, the roofs. You can see that one also behind me. We have to put some bird screens in. We have to do some coating still in here, but we left these little areas here, these little walkways, so that the guys aren't crunching tiles when we're coming back and forth, carrying heavy stuff. So we're trained to walk on the tiles, so we know, like if you watch my video how to walk on the tile, we know you want to spread your weight evenly, walk in the center of the tiles, 1 foot per tile, just like this, as you're walking across the new roof, because we don't want to be breaking brand new tiles. These are very strong, grade 1 clay tiles from Varea. So these are pretty strong tiles. You can see here's the underside of one right here. Here's one of our little walkways. Our harnesses all roped up here, tied to chimneys and cupolas. But the roof is looking great. We're making great progress. And all of this was done in the 2-week time period from the last video. So it's only been a couple weeks since the last video. You can see all these tiles already done. You can see all the progress already on the other side. You can see we started the lobby. So you can see the crane coming up behind me actually. We're doing a lot of progress, getting a lot of work done on this roof. We still have some accessories like coping cap to install back here. And then these tiles on these upper roofs. And we're going to be coating the interiors of these chimneys and cupolas with a polyurethane product. And then we're actually coating all the exteriors of the chimneys and cupolas also with an acrylic product, PB70. It's a polyglass acrylic product. Trying to keep everything in the polyglass family here as we complete this roof so that we get a nice umbrella warranty. You see here the ridge metal. We've got some copper just sitting on top of it. That's not the actual ridge metal, but this is right here. You get this on all of your hips and ridges. You can see actually, if we come right here, you see our lines all still gridded out. But you can see we have not started doing concrete yet, but these hip tiles are all installed down this hip right here. And so we have our pans, our caps, our pans, and then our hip tile right here. And then the ridge tiles are gonna go here. The hip and ridge tiles are the same thing. It's just different detail, hip detail versus ridge detail. The ridge is at the top of the roof, and then the hips run down to the corners of the roof. So that's a ridge, that's a hip, that's a hip, that's a hip, and then another ridge right here. So this is one question that I actually get a lot when we finish someone's roof is, oh, I see some foam. Is this gonna be a problem? This foam here, over time, is just gonna break right off. You can see it's pretty hard right now, but once you get rain and wind, these little pieces where the foam expands too much past the edge of the tile, it'll just come off on its own, natural weathering. So you don't have to worry if you get a little foam overspray. That's actually a good thing. That means that we installed a ton of foam on those tiles, so they're not gonna go anywhere. But when you get little pieces of foam like this, it's not really anything to worry about. You see, it just breaks right off if you scrape it. If you wanna go up there and clean it and you don't wanna wait for it to come off yourself, you can just scrape it right off like that. Like, it comes off pretty easily. It's not an issue if you go ahead and scrape it off, but it'll come off on its own naturally if you don't wanna go do that. All right, so behind me, you can see the guys are installing on the edge of the roof here. We're putting these tiles. You see the foam lines here for the pan tiles, and he's setting the pan tiles in a line. I'm gonna turn the camera around so you can get a better view. You can see the pan tiles are following the lines, and these little pieces are to help stabilize the pan tiles. And then you pre-spray the cap and place the cap in place. And you can see that the foam is blue when it comes out of the gun, but then it sets yellow. You can see this is still turning here. The residual stuck on the hip metal here. This is how you keep nice straight lines with the barrel tile, is by marking all these lines before, and then just following down the center with the nail hole. And you can see how the foam is actually coming out of that nail hole right there. But that's gonna set yellow, so this is gonna turn like more like that color. But see, you follow the line with your spray, put your pan tiles, and then you put your cap tiles behind. So next we set the next row of pan before we swap the cap. Sacrificial pieces right there. You just use these cut pieces for that, and you put those in place to hold that pan tile in place. So this is a barrel tile. You hear people call S tiles barrel tiles all the time. This is a true barrel tile where there's a pan and a cap. The S tiles are not a barrel tile, the one-piece tiles. This is a barrel tile. And you can see that the vintage ones here are the ones that have the almost like aged look to it, and then the pans on the bottom are the non-aged. Those are just Ohio red is the color for that one. It's like a darker red. The other red is like terracotta red, which is more like a Spain style. you can see on the edge of the roof there, the eave closure pieces that we talked about in the part 4 video. They're all on the eaves. You can see them nailed in actually on that eave right there, following the lines. You see how they're in between the lines. So you can see all these eave closure pieces in place on the eave. And then our pans and caps going on to meet those eave closures. See how the eave closure is right there on the end. And watch now when he puts that cap piece where the eave closure is. Right on the edge right there, right over that eave closure piece. So you can see right here all these tiles that are left here in the hip line. The reason we have these pieces of tile is that this breakage is gonna become useful. Either it gets smashed and used to set tiles, or it'll get smashed to sit in the hips, or some of these cut tiles are gonna be used as smaller pieces to fill areas of the paper, like these gaps here, in between where the hip tiles and the hip and ridge metal is gonna go. So that's why we keep all these pieces here along this line, because they're gonna be used for some purpose. Either for that or for backfill, or to help set the pan tiles in place like you saw in that last video there. Check out this nice straight valley cut line. This is really hard to do, to cut a closed valley line like this, and I see a lot of roofs that people finish and it's like an S where there's big gaps down the line. That's what a valley cut is supposed to look like. That's why my guys are the best. So I wanted to come down to the end here so you can see what the rake tiles look like. Right here, that's what the rake tiles look like. And behind me, you can see the nails sticking out right there where the rake tiles are, because the rake tiles are nailed in, then foamed, and then they're also mortared in. So now, the funny thing is you saw how the beautiful new tiles look. Compare that to these old tiles that we just saw. The new tiles look so much better, which they should. They're new, but these are handmade. The difference is these are handmade tiles, so these are not as quality. The new tiles up there are grade 1 Varela factory tiles. These ones are all handmade Alhambra tile. So basically that means in Colombia they've got people actually forming these tiles, and they use their thigh, their leg, to form these tiles. So none of them are congruent. They're all different. Each tile is completely different. Some are wide, some are narrow. It just depends on whoever was using their leg to form it. Whereas these are all made in a factory. They're all grade 1. So these absorb less than 2% moisture. These ones, they absorb a lot of moisture, so they break a lot on their own, even without people walking on them. And they're also not as quality, so they can't support the weight of other people walking. Here we are now on the north side of the building. Our MTS is installed. This is the secondary water barrier of this green paper. You can see this is our target flashing here. As we go green paper, then metal, then green paper. So another layer of green paper has to be put on over these metal details. We haven't gotten to that yet. So all these metal details on all these walls is gonna get secondary layered in with MTS. And you can see these valley flashings installed behind me. Take a quick look here so you can see. Stainless steel fasteners right here with our copper. You can see here in the valley we've got stainless steel nails on this side because this is the wood deck, and on this side we have a concrete deck, so we had to use concrete screws. You see the dust here, concrete dust, to come in. And so right where I'm walking now, this is concrete and that's wood. Why they built this way, who knows, but that's what they did. Why they added metal decks too, who knows, but that's what we did. So we got concrete, wood, we've got the steel decks down below where the lobby is. You can see the tile side over here, the guys working on the tiles on that side behind me, as we're putting this metal in here on this side. These metal details are time consuming. Plumbing vent detail, and then this is going to be targeted flashed over the plumbing vent. It's called a lead stack too, but this basically goes around the old cast iron plumbing. There's a cast iron pipe in there popping out, and a lead stack wraps around it to help protect it, and then this gets target flashed with the roofing paper. These little areas are called returns. This is one of the places where you will find most roof leaks on any type of structure. Commercial building, house, like your front door entrance where you have this little gable over a front door. That is one of the most common spots for a roof leak. And it's also a really tough place to get in here and work. See, there's barely any clearance there to fit in there. to work in that little spot. We're gonna custom wrap metal in there, and that type of detail is a pain to do, but in one of the other Fisher videos, you can see the guys working in there. So go ahead and check that out if you want to see what that detail looks like. But those details are pain. So today here, you can see this is what we call a detail day. We're up here finishing these details on the roof, finishing up the eave metal here, installing our wall flashing metals, and all this is going to get sandwiched in with MTS here afterward. And we've got our TU Plus behind me that's going to go on top of the MTS. So you can see all these metal details getting done. On this side, we still have to do these cupola roofs. You see now that on the other side, we've finished the cupola roofs, but you see no metal here. And you can see behind me, just like on the lobby, the cupola roofs are built with a metal deck. See that same type of metal deck here. And since these are higher up, because right now we're about 12 stories up, whereas the lobby is only 1 story, these require more fasteners per sheet of plywood than the lobby. So we had to have special engineering done on these cupolas and chimneys, on the metal decks down below that I showed you, and on the lobby, to see how many how many screws per board we need per sheet of plywood. And since these ones are all edge details, they're high up, these require like 60 screws per board, whereas down at the lobby in the field they only need about 20 screws. And you also have eaves, so if you're on the end, it's a zone 2 rating, and in the zone 2 rating you have to put more screws. I think it's like 28 or something on the lobby. And then on the corners, you have to put more, like 40, even on the lobby. So you have zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Zone 1 is the field, that's the middle of the roof. Zone 2 is the eave, the edge of the roof. And zone 3 is any corners of the roof. And then they have expanded zones, like these cupolas and chimneys are a special zone. They're expanded, like zone 4, 5, 6, like they have different numbers for each zone, and the engineering documents that go along with the permit for the building. Thanks for watching Fisher Island Part 5. As we're doing tiles, we're doing drying, we're doing demo, 3 different parts of the roof simultaneously. We'll see where we're at next week on our progress. Hopefully if we get some good weather, we'll be a bit further along. And with the good weather, hopefully we can show some of these details, like coping cap getting installed. We're doing some coatings on these cupolas and chimneys starting next week. So we'll see how far we get for part 6 video, if this is already completed or if we're here when they're doing that in progress. We're going to be continuing tile on the next section of the roof next time around. And then we're also going to be probably have a high reach here next time during the video for the eyebrows. So we'll see how far we get in the video or how far we get in the roof for the next time in the video. Please give us a call at 305-MIA Roof if you have any roofing needs in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties. For Palm Beach, Martin, and St. Lucie counties, call us at 561-559-ROOF. And we'll see you next time. Peace out.